This tutorial is going to go over adding some different brush effects to your images, and I would definitely try this out with all of your photos just to see how it looks. It's an edit that can easily tie things together, so find some sort of brush preset that you would like to work with and give it a try on your photos. If you don't like it, just hide the layer and go back to your original image. But to start out, we're going to go to a website called brusheasy.com, so you can see the address here that I typed in. And this is just a free brush download. So I'm going to type in for this fog. So you can type in any sort of brush preset that you would like. So there's some other suggestions here. So there could be lightning, water, light. And when you find a filter that you like, go ahead and click on that and download it. So hit free download. Just make sure that the way that you're adding the filter isn't completely taking over your image, so it's not being too much. Also make sure that when you download it, you're not adding it to maybe create a specific effect. So for example, if you have pictures of candles and you wanted to show smoke being blown out, don't use something that's going to create an image that you could just kind of create by yourself. So it looks like it downloaded. So I'm going to click on this in my download, so it's in the bottom left corner of my screen here. And it's going to expand and show this little message that might say that it didn't work. Hit OK, that's okay, because it is creating a zipped file. So all we're going to do is double click on that and it will unzip the file. And if you double click that, it will open Photoshop for you. And if you go to your brush presets over here, it should automatically show up. So you should see in my brushes at the bottom here some of that fog. I added some smoke earlier as well, so you can see some of those different brushes that were added here. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And my paintbrush is obviously way too big to see the effect, so I'm going to change the size, bring that down a little bit, and start just experimenting with the fog. So most of my image has that black background, so I'm going to try out white for my paintbrush and see how that looks. I might make my paintbrush size a little bit bigger. And I'm just going to click here. I don't really like how there's that square that comes up, so I'm going to go back and undo. And I'm going to try a few different effects and see how those look. Maybe they will be a little bit better and not have that edge around the top, so try some of them out. It should have downloaded multiple effects for you. So this one's a little bit better. I like how it has that clean edge at the bottom, so it's lining up directly with my image here. The one thing that I might have to go back and adjust are these edges in the middle here, that you can really see that difference between the brush and the background. Now before I get too far here, one thing I did forget to do on my image is add a new layer when I'm working with the fog. So make sure you do add a new layer. If I decided later that I did not like this and I had already saved it, it's stuck on my image and I can't go back and undo it. So that's the destructive editing. So always make sure you're adding a new layer. So I'm going to do Command Option Z to get rid of that. I'm going to add my new layer and then re-add my smoke effect here. Now with my smoke effect, I can try out a couple of different overlays, so I can see if any of these look interesting or if any of them will do much to the photo, so you can experiment with some of those overlays. When you find one that you're happy with, again, if there's anything you have to go back and edit, that's when I would add a mask to your layer. And you can use either the same effect that you've been working with and maybe tilt your paintbrush. So here's the first thing I'm going to try. So I'm going to try to rotate my brush to the side. So something like this. And that way I can try to get rid of some of those edges on the sides here that are going to stand out too much in my image. So this kind of blended that that smoke effect a little bit into the background off of the shoe. I can rotate that back to the other side and try to get rid of some of this on this side as well. So that's one thing. You could also try using a different brush, so maybe just one with a feathered edge, and starting to paint some of that out. I'm going to bring my opacity up a little bit more to help. So that's starting to work and really blend that fog more into the background. So that's a little bit less noticeable there. I could also go back in my brush presets and maybe try a different one out to see how that effect looks maybe at the bottom of my image. So let me find another one here. So we'll try this one. I'm going to change that brush size. So maybe at the bottom I want to really show a little bit more of that smoke. So I added a new layer and I'm adding a little bit to the bottom. So maybe to create a little bit of depth. So it could be interesting where you have a foreground, middle ground with your object, and then background with some of that fog or smoke in the back. So try adding a little bit of depth, experiment more with maybe the colors that you use. It could be interesting to maybe add a little bit of color in areas. So try that out and see how your final composition looks.